And we are live. What's going on, coaches? How you doing? Hey, this intro is going to be really quick because Coach may have to go at a moment's notice because he's big time. I am thrilled that he's here. Coach Marion, thank you so much for being here. And I just want to jump in. Where did you get the idea for the go-go offense? Because that thing is incredible.
It started really, I just started studying football all the way back to the first football game actually ever. And then really just was looking at what stood the test of time and two back offenses and triple option and, just kept studying and studying and studying. I kept seeing how the option just stood the test of the time. But I didn't want to lose anything in the passing game. I still wanted to be explosive in the passing game, but I wanted to run really the option, but not like like under center, because I was looking at De La Salle's a high school coach in the Bay Area, and they consistently won all the time. So I was like, man, how can I continue to, do what they kind of do, something similar to what they do, but I want to do it from shotgun in different ways. And, we were a big 11 personnel offense when I was at the University of Tulsa and 10 personnel. And, I'd been part of West Coast schemes and all type of stuff, but I really wanted to be able to run the ball that way and do different things with the quarterback. So I really started playing with it in 2012. I had taken over some really bad teams. Like it was like the first year of football. I was a JV head coach, like the first year of football at that school. So I was like, okay, I can play with it here. And then 2013, I became a high school head coach. And really was, just heavy with the RPOs at the time. We were doing a lot of RPO stuff. And then 2014, I became a high school head coach again in Pennsylvania, where I'm from. And I was like, all right, we're just going to go wholesale with doing all the stuff that people know now as the go-go offense stuff. And then when I was at Howard, go-go in DC is like the culture. And we were kind of looking for something to give us an identity, like what are we going to be known for? And one day I came in the meeting room and I was like, we're going to be the go-go offense, we're going to go fast and and the kids loved it. And then, it was just really between us, and then it kind of took off when we, the first game of the season, we had the, big upset against UNLV and, scored 40 the first game out there. So, kind of took off from there.
And it's incredible. When you introduced it to me, when I first saw the formation, I was like, what in the world is this? What did the kids do when you're like, okay, this is what we're doing and we're going to go fast and here are the plays? Did they look at you and like, coach has kind of gone off his rocker? They're like, heck yes, let's do this.
Well, I think anytime you're on the cutting edge and doing something new and unique, I think the kids were excited about it. And a lot of that stemmed from the fact that, they weren't very good in the past, so a new idea, a new focus. And I'm pretty, you know, I'm kind of all over the place, my personality, so, it fits me, you know what I'm saying? And, you got to be unique to who you are. And, the kids embrace it and love it, from the standpoint because it's a quarterback friendly offense, it's a receiver friendly offense, it's a running back friendly offense. It makes it really it makes it really fun for the offensive line because they don't feel like the pressure have to do everything every single time. It takes a lot of pressure off them at times. So I think it worked out for everybody.
Now, in the process of putting this spin on your offense, did you come into any roadblocks? You're like, how do I overcome this, and what did you do to overcome it?
Yeah, I think anytime you're doing something new, there was sometimes I'd be in a game and be like, the hardest thing for us to do is when I'm breaking a defensive coordinator down, um, they don't play any of the formations that we run. So I have to typically guess, okay, if in this formation, when four people are to a side, this is how they play it. This is what they do. And when things change in the game, then I have to be able to adapt quick in the game and just. So I've spent a lot of time with defensive coordinators just drawing up the formation and asking them how would they play it, what would they do to it, and kind of getting those things. So that's kind of been the, in the infancy of it when I first started doing it. It was like, man, okay, they're doing something different that I hadn't seen a team do, because nobody else was, doing it.
Yeah, and speaking of that, coach wanted to know what made you come up with that running back alignment.
I just think, when you talk about defensive pressures, they want to put four to a side. They want to pressure four to a side. And I was just thinking, okay, well, typically we create an unbalanced formation every play when we have four to a side, right? And now we do things where we can flip the backs and motion it back and move guys, and it really already starts them off in an overload look. And then the other thing to that was I wanted to get everybody to play a 4-4 cover three, base defense. I was trying to get everybody
Yeah.
just to play cover three base defense so we could throw the ball exactly where you already know where the spots are going to be open at on the field, and be able to take your shots and take advantage of the defense. So that's kind of what, when they overload the side, then we run the ball weak. When they overload the backside, then we run the ball strong. Just kind of dictate where the ball's already going to go before the play starts.
I like that. That's beautiful. Now, you said that when you first started out, you didn't know what in the world defenses were going to do. Did you ask like those coaches that also do unique contrarian things, what they normally see, and try to compare the two? Or was it just like, okay, this first year, I have no idea what we're doing. And then the second year, you kind of had something to fall back on as okay, a similar defense did this. This is what we're going to do now.
Yeah, I remember I went up to Auburn. I took some kids up there to coach, to see coach and just meet them and stuff. And Rhett and coach were basically like, Coach Malzahn at the time when he was there, he was basically just like, it worked for me, like, go for it, and Rhett was like, it looks good. I mean, it's sound fundamentally. I mean, you should be able to roll it, and that's what we did. We just started, just kind of made the kids believe in it. Trained them hard and made them believe in it, and we kind of took and just kept going with it and kept adding things to it. Like boom, boom, we can put this little wrinkle on it, this little wrinkle on it, and it's just mix and matching stuff you see in other people's offenses and stuff that I've learned. I've been in pretty much every offense. So it was just trying to taper and tailor to what kind of those formations and sets, because we have 22, 23 formations where those backs are side by side like that, where we can play around with tight ends, receivers, move people around, do different things.
I like that because another coach, Coach Nixon, wants to know, when running the same side running back, what is your favorite to pair with the tight end wing sets?
Well, I love the tight end wing set unbalanced and putting a receiver on that same side, right? So you got five guys to a side. Really, you still only have four eligibles because one guy's ineligible. But there's a lot of
Most
things that
defenses
we
don't know
did with
that.
it. Huh?
Most defensive guys don't know that either, and they're just
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we got to cover him."
Yeah, and then you can put a tackle over there and put the tight end backside, and like you can do a lot of different things to play with it.
You're
But
just messing with them.
yeah, I love to run, like when we went tight end wing and we would run a lot of just dive option, straight. The one back would go dive downhill, then we would arc both tight ends. So you really have like a kind of a jet slash option look, if that end squeezes, you can flip the ball out there. I liked when we went, just what I call ace, a tight end on either side, and move the receiver around. And now you can run your speed sweep with the backs arcing and blocking, right? And the line going opposite. There's a lot of different things that you can do with those tight ends. At William and Mary, we were tight end heavy. We had a lot of tight ends on the roster, less receivers. We had basically more tight ends than we had receivers. So we did a lot of different things with the tight ends. So I think it's still personnel driven from the standpoint of, we're going to put the best personnel of the receivers or tight ends on the field that we can.
I love that. Now, Coach Schiffman wants to know, how has the go-go adapted and changed since you started it many years ago?
Yeah, when I first started it, we really only ran three formations. We ran like a what I call a pro set, where we just had 21 personnel, a tight end strong, the Z receiver off, the X receiver to the boundary. We really just ran that, and we ran our twin set, which is two receivers out there, a 20 personnel set. And then as I got to college, I just really started bringing a whole bunch of different it was a whole bunch of different formations and looks with that. So the formations continue to grow, uh, as you're just trying to figure out, how do I get the best player here on their worst player, and do different things like that. So I think it adapted a lot from the standpoint that we started doing way more formations out of it. Because in my brain, when I first started out, I was like, this is just going to be a package of formation. And then Then it went to like, all right, we're going to do this all the time, and we would motion to trips, we would motion to spread, we would shift to spread and trips and start with the backs in the backfield, like then we just started using more formations.
Then you decided, you know what, I really enjoy messing with the defense. Let's go all in on this.
No doubt.
All right. Coach Floyd wants to know, do you think this would be hard for middle schoolers to do?
No, we ran it at the USA. I ran it at I coached the USA team or whatever one year. The little camp they had for about 3 or 4 days, and ran it with guys that were going into their freshman year of high school, and we were able to install it within 3 days. I mean, it's still your typical. You teach the line first, right? You get the line to do exactly what you want done, and then you kind of get the skill guys to fit in around it. The hardest thing really is for the backs. You have to teach them their steps and how to not run into each other and crisscross and do different things in the backfield. But receiver still receiver play, and quarterback play is really just, his reads become a little bit different as far as when you're running option stuff in the backfield. And you just have to be able to teach those guys, how to be independent entities within a team, but it's really, think of all your, I always say, make sure it's foolproof before you get it out to the kids, So, we walk through the steps as coaches, we talk through it, we get it on the board, and then we give it to the kids. And it should be pretty simple, put it in their terms.
I love that. I'm writing that down. Make sure it's foolproof before getting it to the kids. Because I think a lot of coaches, we get an idea. We're like, you know what, we're going to throw it out there. And then we put it in there without telling any of the kids. And it looks like trash. And then we get mad that it doesn't look good. But we didn't set the kids up for success first because we didn't think everything out.
Yeah, I think you have to, old Italian saying, you got to throw pasta on the wall, see what sticks within the meeting room, because if you guys believe in it, right, the kids are going to believe in it. If you go out there and say, like, this is going to work, like when Coach Malzahn brought his offense to Tulsa when we played for him, he's like, this is going to work. And we'd be like, okay, we believe you, and it worked. You know what I'm saying? We didn't know if it would work or not. I don't even think, if you asked him realistically, I don't know if he thought that, we had the talent to be as good as we ended up being, and it worked out. So you just have to have a sound front as far as the coaches when you go give it to the kids, and the kids will do whatever you tolerate.
And if you tell them the why, I find, and I'm sure you know this now where you're at Pittsburgh and everything like that, when they know why, they love it. And they'll follow you anywhere as long as you tell them the why and the reasoning behind that.
Yeah, I always love to tell them like the origin of the play, because kids nowadays, I mean, when you're a true football teacher and you're teaching them football, they really want to learn it. They really have no clue. I mean, they really just, it's a highlight and oh, I like this player, let me read like 2 sentences on them. I mean, everything happens so instant for them, so fast. I mean, I think that's why I'm doing really well in coaching now, because my attention span is like that. Like it's like
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom. It's like you get all this information, but how can you get it out as fast as possible to the kids and make it make sense to them? And I think a lot of people now are struggling with the kids of today, because they don't understand that they want the same information we wanted, when we played and we were younger. They just want it like in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. They don't want the full dissertation. They just want like, what are the bullet points?
Yeah. Give me a sound bite. And if I like it, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm game. I agree. Now, I like that you said that, you got to throw it at the wall, the Italian saying. How long was this offense percolating in your head before you just decided to go at that JV level, screw it, let's do this?
Well, I seen the formation ran, but no one ever did anything at it. They just ran the quarterback. It was just like, it was like people always go like, oh, people been running that formation. I'm like, well, what did they do out of it? Like,
Yeah.
Give me like an actual play, like it wasn't just student body, right? Run the quarterback power right. I mean, that, so
Boring.
yeah. So I was like, I really wanted to create an entire offense out of it. How can I put all these concepts that I know within this? Because I know how the defense is pretty much going to line up to this. I mean, if they don't, we're going to run the ball for a lot of yards if they don't line up and try to stop the run, So That was kind of in 2010. I really started thinking about it because I saw the formation, but it was just, like I said, quarterback run. It wasn't, there was nothing to it. There was no bells and whistles to it. It wasn't an offense. An offense has answers, has shifts, motions, different packages, nakeds, bootleg, all types of stuff. And what an offense has, right? An offense is a communication system to it. People look at it and go, well, we saw that, but you only saw, run to the right with the quarterback, So in 2010, I started thinking about it. 2012, I was like, all right, let's try one play. 2013, it was like, okay, now we're really doing this. We're walking through the steps. We're getting it right. And then 2014 was just all out.
I like that. I like that. Okay. Um, Coach Burris wants to know, what are some things you did during game prep if you were unsure what kind of looks adjustments a defense would make at the point or at the start of the go-go?
Yeah, so I would go, all right, let's block it versus a 3 down front. Let's block it versus a 4 down front. Let's block it versus 5 up. Let's block it versus 6 up. Okay, what are our answers, right? We just have an answer sheet. We just started creating an answer sheet to everything that we could possibly see from a standpoint of what the box would look like. Really, on the coverage answers on the back end, a lot of that stuff really already had those answers from being a receiver and knowing the back end. But really, for me, I had to spend time with the two things that I spent the most time on. Well, really, three things was becoming a quarterback, learning how to actually be a quarterback, like actually going through the steps and doing what a quarterback does. I actually had a guy train me to be a quarterback and go through the steps, and
Oh,
so I could
nice.
really understand what quarterback play was all about, and because I didn't play quarterback, and then the offensive line play, really just studying a whole bunch of great offensive line coaches, the Gibbs of the world, and everybody who had an O line clinic. I was just going to O line clinics and learning from offensive line coaches how to establish the run, and then really defensive coordinators, just asking them, what would you do to this? What would you do to that? What do you consider this? What if this guy motions here? What's your check? What's your answers? And what would you do to unbalanced? Just trying to seek as much knowledge and information I could to compile like an answer sheet. I like to have an answer key. Everybody talked about Rich Rodriguez back in the day. He would have an answer sheet to each. If they played cover 3, right? If they played 3 strong, 3 weak, this is the pass play we're going to run. This is the run. Like having that answer key so when you go out there, you're able to make adjustments on the fly and not after the game is over.
How different was your answer sheet from your game plan? Or were they mostly the same because you didn't know what you were going to get?
Well, the game plan is like, this is what we're doing, and they're gonna adapt to what we're doing. That's the game plan sheet, and it's really based on touches. What player needs to get the ball? How many times we need to get them the ball? When we get on this hash, when we get on this yard line, when we're backed up, when we're coming out. This. How does the defense coordinator play in these areas? Your third down situational. That's really what your game plan starts off of, and then your answer key is just if they do something you haven't seen, into the adjustment of, because really you're just checking it off. Your first 9 to 18 plays, you're going, okay, they play this formation exactly how we thought they would. Boom, they do this. We motion, they did exactly what they did on film. You're really just checking those things off.
I like what you said. Now it's a predominantly run, but you still take shots, but you still keep up with touches. Why? How does that work? Because that's the first time I've heard running teams actually talk about touches. Usually that's air raid teams or something like that. Like all the receivers have to get touches, but you did something different. Why did you do that?
It just comes to the simple thing of your best guy needs to get the ball if you want to win, but there's also a thing called team chemistry. There's certain guys who give the team some juice. He might not be able to score a touchdown, but when that guy gets the ball, he gives the team some juice. I learned when I was a high school coach that everybody on the team has impact. We had an autistic kid that was on our team and he wasn't allowed to play, Eric Miller. And, the team would ask me every week, Coach, how many points do we need to be up by so Eric can play? And that always stuck with me about like, even the last guy on your roster who, has a disability that really, stopped him from being a football player. He wanted to be a part of the team, and his mom helped him be, on the team. She was a great advocate of the program. We won a lot of games just because the kids wanted to see Eric play, like just be out there for a play. And so when you think about touches, I just think about from the standpoint of we're going to make sure that every guy out there who can make an impact and put the ball, near the end zone or in the end zone has the opportunity to touch the ball. Now, the better you play, obviously, the more touches you get. But I think that's very critical to not just say this is our offense and we're going to run it, because I think about times where my high school coach told me this once, like I was a Division I football player that set records in high school. I probably got the ball 20 times in the season, 25 times in the season. You know what I'm
Should be
saying?
25 times a game.
But it would be like, man, like you got guys like that. There's guys on teams who don't touch the ball who could probably score a lot of the time, you know what I mean? And make you look like a lot better of a coach, and really guys are thinking like it's the scheme, like we have to run this play, but if that play is not creating explosive plays, for me it's more who's those explosive players that can score touchdowns, put the ball in the end zone.
Okay, so talking about that, do you go into a game like, hey, this kid needs to touch the ball 20 times, this kid needs to touch it 10, this kid needs to touch it 5? Are you trying to do what a lot of basketball teams do, are like, hey, this kid's hot, let's start feeding him the ball a little bit more?
Yeah, if somebody gets hot during the game, it's like, let's go, let's ride. We're gonna until he's sitting over there on the knee on the sideline. I mean, I remember we were playing, and it was a great story. The kid Jaquez Ezzard, who was at Sam Houston this year, the receiver when they won the national championship, and we had him at Howard, and we really didn't know. The year before, he was like a returner. They didn't really use him. He was hurt. And then the year I came, it was like there was two kids that were like that. Dedrick Parsons, who's going over to Hawaii now, and Ezzard, who's at Sam Houston. And it was like we gave him one touch, and it was explosive play, and then boom, we just start giving them, go ahead, keep rolling. And then they became, the upper echelon of players. Now their name started at the top of the touch chart, and I was like, all right, now number 12 needs to get the ball, So that's kind of how it always works. It's like, you find out, and then you try to ride the hot hand and give the ball to the guys.
I like that. It's like, okay, you get one touch, and then he goes off and like, you know what? Let's give him a little bit more touches. That looked kind of nice. I like it. All right, Coach Bixer, I butchered that. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm math. I can't talk. What is the benefit of the go backfield over the two back look? So why'd you do it on two sides instead of split, like the split back veer and stuff like that?
For me, I mean, I just figure like we do that, So when you have two backs in the backfield, you can get to all the two back formations, right? So now we have the ability to get to all the two back formations, so we can motion to those two back formations. So if you watch our film from 2017 at Howard, I mean, we would motion to split backs, or we'd start in split backs and motion to the backs on the same side. And we can pull around, and we would go from like, all right, now you would have like 11 personnel look. So we'd be on two, the backs would be on the same side. And then one back would motion up and go into the hip position of the tackle. And we would run split zone, or we run wide zone, and boom, you have that extra blocker there and do different stuff like that. So to me, the benefit of those two guys on the same side is creating four to a side, because defenses want to blitz four to a side. I have four to a side already, so I have you out leverage, right? So the same thing is just trying to out leverage them and make them, every defensive coordinator that I faced, guys that actually talk to me after games and say, man, you kept me up all week long. We carted up everything. And that's really the mindset of just trying to figure out, how do I put my kids in the best position? Because for me, I haven't ran the offense yet with an upper echelon group of talent. I mean, it's always been, think about the teams that I ran this offense with. One was 0-10, one was 1-9, one just started their football program. One won 2 games, one was one, so it hasn't been like, I'm taking over a juggernaut team and boom, I'm running it. It's always been just trying to find an advantage and say, I just never thought it was good enough to tell the kids they're not good enough to have the opportunity to win,
Yeah, and what I like about this though is you've found ways, like you just said, put your kids in the position to win. I have found by the more and more every defensive coordinator I talk to says that they hate unbalanced stuff. And you're coming out with your offense like, hey, we're unbalanced. We can get to balance, but I'm going to show you in that. So did you show unbalance every single play and then motion, or did you start off like 2 by 2 and then go to unbalance? What was your philosophy on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we started messing with the unbalanced. I think the first play actually of the UNLV game in 2017, we went unbalanced. And just wanted to put 5 guys to a side. It was like, okay, we started with 4 guys. Now let's go 5 guys. Now let's see what they do to it. And it's really just auto check. So we started playing with it and using a lot more. And Coach Norvell always talked about auto checks. Like every time you line up in this formation, they do the exact like empty check. Defense has 3 calls for empty the entire season, right? Defense coordinator typically does, right? If they go into empty, boom, these are the 3 checks that we'll use, right? They're going to either pressure you, they're going to play a zone, or, bring one, So it's beautiful. Kids in the background.
Yes, my little girl.
Beautiful. Love it.
Can you say hey, Aria? If you can see. There she is.
There you go. Hello. Love it.
He says hey. The joys of father. Thank you, baby girl. She's drawing. You want me to show everybody? I'll show them. She just drew me a picture.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
I did. Okay. Go on, baby. I love you. Sorry about that.
It's all good. Girls love their dad. There it is.
Yes, they do.
So
I'm a girl dad through and through, man.
My daughter told me, I don't know if this is a compliment or not. She said, "You're a lot better dad than you are a coach." I said, hey,
Take it as a compliment. She meant well. How old's your daughter?
12.
Okay. Yeah, mine is fixing to turn 6, so we're gonna have a huge princess.
Enjoy it. Once they get to middle school, then they're just. Right now, she's just bossing me around a little bit. Now it's like, then it gets really, it gets rough there. But
all right,
yes,
you gotta go.
People just have auto checks to unbalance, and so now I know I can tell the quarterback they're going to line up like this every single time and believe exactly what you're seeing. You know what I mean? And I think we played around with that stuff a lot at William and Mary. That's how we generated a lot of offense because just to line up and play people when they're bigger or better and have better personnel, it's hard to do that, But when you get into stuff where you can say, all right, listen, fellas, they're going to line up like this every time, and here's their weakness right here. Here's their spot that we can hit. I think it gives the kids confidence.
I'm sure William and Mary was a pain in the butt because you said you were heavy tight ends too. So you got the tight ends, and you're going unbalanced. I'm sure you caused a lot of defensive coordinators many sleepless nights when you faced them.
Yeah, I mean, we just made up our deficiencies with our strengths. We try to operate in our strengths of what we did have. That's always been the key in football. I mean, just operate in your strengths, use what you do have, and find a way to win with it, and until you can get more and do more. So. But that helped me a lot because at Howard we started playing with tight ends. Typically I didn't use the tight end a lot. In high school when I used my tight end, he was really a receiver that was, not fast enough to be a receiver. So we put him at tight end and he just arc blocked and, he really never had to get physical in there, maybe when we ran power a couple times. But when we got to Howard, we had a big tight end and we had another fast kid that was a decent tight end, and we started playing with it. But then at William and Mary, that gave me kind of the ideas that I could, use those tight ends a lot more because tight ends have never been heavy in our offense. But now it's like we can do all types of stuff with the tight ends, and that gives the defense even more headache.
I want to ask that. So you like to go fast. I know in your videos in your book you want a fifth quarter. How do you go that fast but not be complex or have a lot of plays? Because you can get like a lot of different stuff in your system. How do you keep from putting too much in?
I really don't think there's a such thing as too much if you're teaching it the right way, because it all really becomes the same thing. I mean, for example, I'm from, let's say, the world of Pittsburgh, for example, okay? And so say Pittsburgh is your wide zone run, right? Now Steelers your wide zone run with arrow, Terry Bradshaw is your fake wide zone waggle pass. Like you just start in the kids in their brain, they can just start like picking it up. One word calls, one word calls, one word calls, and they're super intelligent when it comes to that. I mean, it's just like it's hard for you to say the sentence. You can know what the sentence means, right? I can put the same West Coast gun double right, zebra right. I can do all that and do it in one word. And the kids don't have to know. You know what I'm saying? And there is kids that want to know, and you break it down to them. Okay, this is where this came from, and this is the origin of this play. But if it can just be one word that resonates in their brain, you know, and you start ringing them off fast, and then they look up and you go. I always tell the kids, man, I'm so proud of you guys. Are freaking rock stars because you guys just learned 40 different plays, and they don't even know it. I mean, they just start when they're one word calls. They don't even think about it. They just learn them.
So what's an example of a call for you? If I was coming in and I'm running your stuff, how would your typical call go?
We could go like twins right, white Oakland, but the same play could be Oakland
Okay.
and be the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So you don't have to call it with a formation.
They would just know did you teach like, hey, if the ball is here, we're in this formation. If the ball is on this hash, we're in another formation. That's automatic how you taught it?
Yeah, I mean, I had a quarterback one time that I had a quarterback and a center before that kind of knew what I was thinking already, and they would just boom. We know what coach is going
Wow.
to call, and we would be right there. We'd be on the same page because I coached a quarterback one time who was a decent point guard. He played like Division II point guard, and he kind of understood the thought process. And we're just gonna just keep driving the ball down the field. If they let us run it, run it, run it. Now they add a guy to the box. We'll throw it real quick. Boom. All right, just both safeties are down. Safeties down. Take the shot. Boom. Run the ball. Run the ball. Safety's back. And he would just keep going and going. And I
That's
just look
nice.
at him and I'd be like, like you got it. Let's roll. Like, and it happens
How do
faster
you
like
how do
that.
you do that though? A lot of coaches feel are scared to give that control over to the players. Did you used to feel that way and you just grew into giving them the ability, or were you always like that? Like, hey, you're running this show. I'm just here if you have any questions.
I think the best quarterback that I ever played with that threw for 5,000 yards, he ran the show. I mean, he'd look over at the coach and coach would check something. If coach checked something, then he would believe in the check. But typically, when he got a play, he would look at the receivers, look at the coverage, look at the safety, and go, "All right, you run this." Like boom.
That's
It,
nice.
like he knew when to pull the ball. He knew when to, like people say, "How do you teach the quarterback to pull the ball? Can he get around the end? Can he beat the end?" Like, do you look out there and feel like you can make a play? Like football is a simple game. I mean, I think we make it really, really difficult, but it's really
I
11
agree.
dudes, some grass, a ball. If we love each other, we're gonna die out there and try to find a way to win. And that's to me, that's why I still stay involved with the game because I try to block out all the extra stuff and just keep it about why I started coaching, what I started coaching for, because I love the kids and I love the game. That's the simplest form of it.
I like that you brought that up. We can talk a little bit about the culture. You said with the kids love each other. As a coach, how do you foster that love between the players? Because sometimes, you've got groups that just really don't mesh well together. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, I think the thing that I thought that was a curse when I was a kid, I moved, so I'm way different than probably any human being that I'm around typically because I moved every year of my life as a kid, some years twice. So probably military brats, they could relate to me well, but I mean, I moved a lot, so I've lived everywhere. So I kind of understand the communication piece with people, like everybody can communicate with a smile, respect, doesn't matter, like I've coach kids literally in Waynesboro. Like, I mean, like, I was the first black teacher to work in the school. This is like, they took me. I mean, this is like
Yeah.
way. I've coached in the Bay Area where the kids came from affluent backgrounds. I coached in the worst part of the Bay Area where the neighborhood was rough and kids lived in Oakland and Richmond, the worst part of the Bay Area. I've lived in Florida, I've lived in Arizona, I've lived in Utah, I've lived in Hawaii. I mean, I've lived Oklahoma, so a lot of different places where I can really relate to people. And I think the thing that makes people relate the fastest, and this is hard for a lot of people to understand and do, but once they do it, it lifts this weight off their shoulder and they're able to come together. And one of my players here told me that was one of the things that he loved that I did is everybody gets up and they're going to say the worst thing that happened to them. So I'll get up and say, I do it first. So I'll get up and just let them know, like, be transparent, right? And I'll just say the worst things that happened to me in my life. And then I'll say the best things that happened to me. And then I'll say my goals. What are my aspirations and dreams as a coach? And then each player does that. And that instantly creates a lot of love for each other. Because guys who might have thought they didn't like each other, if me and you, coach, are talking right now and I say, man, my grandma died of cancer, and you say, man, my dad died of cancer, we're instantly, it don't matter
Bonded.
where we come from. It don't matter if I didn't like you or whatever. It's like, damn, me and that dude are similar. We shared the same struggle, and so that's kind of the things that I've always done with programs to connect them in that way. And then the communication starts, and then we start creating things together. Now we're like, all right, you want to be great, I want to be great. You come from what I come from, and we could be from completely opposite ends of the spectrum, right? But now that we've shared that, we're like, man, let's do this. Now we're on a mission together.
I love that. Two questions. One, I want to know, is that like, where did you get that? Or did you just come up with that on your own? And two, the beautiful thing about that is you're humanizing everybody. I mean, like, in the locker room, you can have people that come from a lot of money and people that come from no money. But when you humanize them and you give them the ability and the example of we all go through the same stuff for the most part, and we're all relatable, that builds that cohesiveness. I freaking love that, man. High five. That's great. I'm stealing it. I wrote it down, by the way. I'm writing everything you say down.
So really, one time I was training out in California when I was still playing, and I saw Coach Ladd out there walking on the field. We were training at De La Salle, and I'm like, man, it's just all talent how you guys win. You guys don't freaking, like, I'm like, how do you guys win all these games? It's all talent. It ain't like, and really just told me about like the accountability cards they do and how the guys get up and say their stories. And so I wanted to do it in a way where, because we did it at a high school that I was at, and it gets a long process if you have somebody say out their whole entire story. It's a lot. So I was just like, how can we create these accountability partners like Coach Ladd was talking about, but do it in a way where it's like, I just tell them, like, give me three things that really happened to were traumatic to you. Give me three things that you really thought were like great things that happened to you. And then give me your wildest dream. Like, what's your really, like, your goal? Like, and that is how we kind of, I just kind of adapted that. Coaches, I mean, people ask me about the go golf. I saw something old and did something new with it. I mean, it's not like I created or invented or look at me, like we get nuggets from everybody and make it authentic to who you are.
Yeah, there's like really only four people in the history of football that truly created something unique. Everybody else is just borrowing from everybody else.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, coming back to the offense though, dude, that was incredible. By the way, I love that. I like it because also you're going first. You're given the gift of going first. So then when you tell your story, and they're like, "Oh, coach is going first and actually telling it," I'm going to open myself up too because my coach just opened up to me.
Yeah, I think it's a two-way street. I think that the thing I love what Coach does here at Pitt, that we do here at Pitt, is just that he always talks about how the coaches are loving the players and the players are loving the coaches and the players are, you know what I mean? Like having that family environment. And I think that a lot of people miss that in coaching. They think like the kids owe them something. Like the kids need to show me that,
Yeah.
like, yeah, but in the same fashion, you need to show the kids that you care about them and love, you know what I mean? Like at the same time, I mean, and I think that's for me, it's easier for me to challenge a guy because I know what that guy's story is. I know what he said to me and he knows mine. And I can look, it is personal, like if you spend all this time with a kid and trying to get him to accomplish something, it is personal. I want to see that kid win. I want to see him succeed. So when I scream at a kid, he doesn't take it like, oh my gosh, Coach Marion hates me. He goes like, damn, this dude's pushing me to be great. He and or I can just say like, hey man, I had a kid who said he wants to get his family a house all on the same street, family members on the same street. I'm like, that's a big goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if he ever acts up, I'm just like, man, how you gonna get your family a house on the same street if
Nice.
if
Nice.
you're dragging, like I don't even have to yell at him, and I think that's some of the things that are able to take guys and move them. You got to be a people mover. You got to be able to move people towards a cause, and not everybody has that. But some people are just scheme. Like everybody has their different strengths. I learned as I got older not to judge guys on what their talents are. Like not everybody. Every coach thinks that they're the best this, they're the best that, they're the best that, they're the best this. But really, as you get older, you start to figure out like, okay, this is my strength. This is what I do well. And as men, we're not great multitaskers anyways. I mean, there's like
No,
probably
we're
two or
not.
three things we can actually really do. And then everything else is, a jack of all trades, a master at none.
I can barely walk and chew gum at the same time.
Exactly.
Oh, I like that. I also and Coach right here says this is like catching an interview of a rising star. I completely agree. You coach without yelling by getting their dreams though. And I found that kids, especially nowadays, they don't like it when you yell at them because it challenges them and not in a good way. But if you can pull them off to a side and like talk to them like they're just a human being, and that kind of does a little bit better than just screaming in their face and saying do it my way because I said so.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that you're always embarrassed of your younger self as a coach. I think when I was a young coach, if a kid pissed me off, I get out there and put my spikes on and let's go. Like what the hell was I doing? Like what are you doing? You get so passionate and driven, like you're not playing no more. Like you're not like involved in this anymore. And as you get older, you start to find ways to move the person in their mind and their heart without I shouldn't have to be an asshole to you to get you to do what you said you wanted to do and what you signed up for. And as I get older, you start to figure that out. Now there's certain guys I've coached certain guys who they only respond to mother you better like because that's how they were raised and that's like some kids only will respond to that. They won't come alive until you do that. And even when you have to do that, you still feel like I still will tell the kid like, man, I hate that I had to like
Yeah.
why does it have to be like that before you like start playing? Like can we find something that gets you to go without me doing that, And I think you just have to be if you do that, I think the one thing that's helped me is if I do that, I always make sure I go put my arm around that kid or spend some time with them, tell them like, here's the situation, like biblical, spare the rod, save the child. It's like, dude, like you're not gonna make it if I don't like, and for me as a coach, I always think about the kids that I couldn't save or help. You know what I mean? Like the kids that didn't get it. All the kids that do get it, they do great. I mean, they're awesome. They're living good. Everything's good. Like you're not worried about them. But it's the kids that don't get it that you can't help, that you can't get through, that you're like, man, I wonder what that kid's gonna do.
How do you combat that? Because there are some kids that just you can try every strategy in the book to try to connect, but you just can't seem to connect. How do you Do you just like, okay, that's it, I've tried everything? Do you try other ways? Do you
No,
find a common ground?
I think the connection piece for me is always because I'm close to the kid's age. I played the game, like the connection piece has never been a problem. I think the hardest part is kids have demons that you can't, like Coach London would always say, this is not a rehab clinic, this is not a halfway house. Like there's some things that you're just not qualified as a coach to get a person through. And then everybody matured. Like boys, I mean, men, I mean, when do we really mature? I mean, we don't mature at freaking 17, 18.
At 50.
Like it's not like, oh, they got it. Like even if they have it in the football, there's kids that get it in the football world, but then they don't get it in the classroom. Then there's kids that got it in the classroom in the football world, but they don't have it in their off the field life yet. Like there's all types of different ways where you're checking boxes like, yeah, they got it on football. Now they understand everything in football, right? Now they understand they need to go to class, they need to do this, boom. But then they're still struggling in other areas or segments. And I think that you have to just understand that a lot of coaches I see that struggle with kids, they want to play like God over the kids. And I think that I understand the fact that I'm just a guide. I try to put that person on their path, right? Because everybody has a different path. I just try to help them, give them the tools for whatever their path may be to utilize them. But it just always hurts your feelings in the fact that like you feel like this is your calling or and you feel like, okay, how come this kid won't do it? But then you have to look at like, all right, you're dealing with 18 to 23-year-olds, and what happened to them before you even were a thought in their brain. They didn't know that you were their, like they had parents, they had situations that happened. I remember when I was a high school coach, I dealt with a kid that we were trying to help, and he had already been in and out of prison. And, like he had already had so many things happen to him. It was like, man, when he would unload on stuff on you, you would just feel heavy. Like, man, this dude is. I thought my life story was rough. This dude's really going through it, And it's like, I'm not prepared for all this stuff. All I can do is just give this kid a positive environment where he can come, a safe space to play football, and try to give him the tools necessary to move on and move forward in his life. And, the ones you save, everybody praises you for. The ones you don't, everybody criticizes you for trying to save them. But, that's what we got in the business for. You're trying to help kids.
I like that. You said you're essentially the guide. Like, hey, this is where you want to go. Let me try to the best of my ability, point you in that direction. This is how you get there. What would from what you started in the high school, you're now in the college ranks, you're big time. What would you say to yourself if you could meet them for like 1 5-minute conversation? What is one thing you would tell your past self? Like, hey, do this instead of what you were doing.
I think the biggest thing that I would do is when I first started coaching, I didn't know anything about, I see these coaches now that've been coaching for like 2 weeks and they already got like a social media platform and like got all this stuff going on. And I'm like, I didn't think about any of that stuff at a young age. Like I didn't think about like networking or, I didn't think that I'd be a big time coach. I was like, my goal was just like to coach high school, like I didn't know really what it would lead to. I was just trying to help kids and, give back. So to myself, then I would have thought a lot big, like I see these young coaches who rise quick in coaching, but it's really their mindset. I mean, they really think big of themselves and they really do get there. And I really didn't think that until probably, I mean, I still don't. I really still think like I got a long way to go. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to do. But, I see these younger guys who rise so quick in coaching and they really have just like circumvented the process by relationships and going out to meet people and doing all those things where I would go to a clinic and I wouldn't even go up there and shake the coach's hand. I would sit in the back, take my notes, boom, 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 and I'd go give it to the kids. Like I wasn't thinking like, like that. So
I need to introduce myself, give them my card, and ask
yeah,
if there's anything I can do for them.
yeah.
Okay, but on the flip side though, I mean, you went in there with I am going to bloom wherever I am planted, and look at you. You've skyrocketed. Now it may not seem skyrocketed to you, but I've been following you since you've been at Howard. I will never forget. I saw something on Twitter with you and your offense. I was like, what the hell is this? This is freaking amazing. And then you're going all these other places, and like you said though, the networking. This is why I love Twitter. We've probably communicated once every 3 or 4 months, just dropping DMs to one another. And now you're here talking about this amazing offense and the impact. I love your offense, but the nuggets you were dropping about connecting with kids and helping them are unbelievable. When's that book coming out?
Yeah, I've been thinking about, my guy Emory Hunt helped me write the Go-Go Offense book. And then, I've been thinking about trying to do that, like a daily devotional and trying to work and help different things like that. So maybe you just sparked it getting
No,
down.
all jokes aside, man, you need to.
Right now, I'm trying to be a football coach, a dad, a farmer. I mean, I got a lot of stuff going on right now.
A farmer? You got a farm?
Yeah, I just got a farm, so I'm like, I got a whole bunch of things going on right now. So, but no,
yeah, man,
for sure, I definitely need to work on that.
Well, Coach, I don't want to hold you up. You've been so kind, and I know you're a busy man. What are you planting on your farm though? I'm curious because my wife gardens, and we have like a huge garden outside.
Well, I have a horse stable on it, so what we're gonna do? Yeah, so cattle and horses. I don't know about planting nothing out. I'm not big into that.
All right. Well, coaches, if you haven't already, look down there underneath his name. That's his Twitter. Is that the best way to reach out to you and get in contact if people want to?
Yeah, no doubt. And I always try to, guys get mad. I try to give as much as I can and answer, like I remember being a high school coach and the only guy that I could really get on the phone was Coach Malzahn because I play, and just trying to get around coaches, and try to share information like what's the why behind what you do. And I try to, help as many guys as I can. So that's the best spot for me.
Heck yeah, Coach. I appreciate it. And coaches also, I know some of you are like, what's the Go-Go Offense? Look in the description. There's a link there that'll take you to his book and his course that he did. It's unbelievable. You need to get it. Coach, thank you so much for coming on, man.
No problem. Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir.